You lie in the stillness of night, wrapped in softness. Your eyes are closed, your body quiet, your breath a gentle tide rising and falling. Around you, the world grows hushed to the hum of the day, fading like the echo of a distant wave. But within you, something wondrous is awake. Not loud, not restless, quietly alive, silently listening. Your brain is not sleeping in the way you think. Beneath your skull, soft tissue folded like a patient maze, there is motion, not the twitch of muscles or the flutter of lids, but a deeper rhythm. Electrical whispers dart from one neuron to the next, like fireflies signaling in the dark. A ballet of connection and reconnection, of learning and unlearning, carried out in shadows. This is not a machine idling. This is a system that never ceases to respond. You hear a sound in the distance, perhaps imagined, and the brain stirs to make sense of it. You shift slightly, and it adjusts its inner maps. A memory surfaces, uninvited, and the brain threads it into the evening's weave. All this happens without instruction. Your brain listens without being told to. It is an organ of perception, yes, but also of response, of readiness, of change. This change is not chaos. It is plasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself. It's the melody behind your thoughts, the echo behind your learning. It is how you recover from loss, how you adapt to new rhythms, new languages, new roles. It is the very reason a child can master speech, a pianist can refine her craft, and a stroke survivor can relearn how to walk. Neuroplasticity, a word that sounds rigid, but is anything but, is the quiet art of becoming. Imagine this: each thought, each movement, each quiet realization sends a ripple through your mind, and each ripple leaves a trace, however faint, not etched in stone, but woven into patterns. The more a path is traveled, the more the grass bends to its weight. The brain lays down trails, then roads, then bridges. With enough time, these become the highways of habit, of reflex, of knowing. But the brain is never done building. Even now, lying still, your brain replays the day, like a painter studying a canvas. What colors were used? Which strokes too harsh, too soft? Did the image make sense, or is something missing? It rearranges its palette accordingly. Here a memory is pruned, there a connection strengthened, and somewhere deep within, a brand new pathway quietly begins to grow. This is how you learn, not just by trying, but by resting, not only by striving, but by allowing. Neuroplasticity does not demand noise or effort. Sometimes it unfolds best in the quiet, in sleep, in dreams, in the still pool of thought that forms when you stop trying to control it. You are not the same person you were yesterday. Your brain has already changed in response to everything you sensed, imagined, or remembered. Each emotion left a mark. Each choice sent new roots curling outward. The landscape inside your skull is never static. It is a rainforest, dense, electric, alive with invisible weather. Think of a violinist running her fingers across invisible strings. That's your brain, tuning itself to the music of your life. It hears the subtle off notes, the dissonance between how things are and how you wish they could be, and so it adjusts, gently, tirelessly, and the most remarkable part: this power doesn't fade with age, it never disappears. Neuroplasticity is not the province of children or prodigies, it is yours, tonight, right now. The only difference is how you invite it in. Whether you believe in the possibility of change or not, whether you offer it challenge, or comfort, or curiosity. A new habit forms when you repeat it. A new belief roots when you practice it. A new skill emerges when you dare to imagine it. Even just thinking about something can lay the groundwork for change. The brain cannot always tell the difference between imagination and experience. So when you envision healing, when you rehearse peace, when you picture growth, the brain listens, and it begins to build. Even your breath is part of the dialogue. When you breathe slowly, the brain listens and calms its pace. When you tense with stress, it prepares for battle. But when you soften like now, it shifts into a state of renewal. This moment, This stillness is not wasted. It is sacred ground, fertile, so you lie there, quietly becoming. You may not notice the new connections being made, the faint synapses reaching like tiny hands to shake another, but they are there. Inside you, forests are forming, cities are blooming, new roots are being laid over old terrain. This is not metaphor, it is the miracle of biology. Your thoughts matter, your choices echo. Your presence here, in this moment, is the beginning of everything. Neuroplasticity means you are never stuck, never broken beyond repair. It means that even in grief, in fear, in confusion, your brain is looking for a path forward, and if it cannot find one, it builds one. It means that even pain can teach, if you let it. That even silence can shape you. So tonight, as you close your eyes, know that the work continues, not work in the way of effort, but in the way of growth, like moss thickening on stone, like stars drifting across the sky, slow, steady, mysterious. You are not waiting to become, you are already becoming, softly, silently, joyfully, becoming. And as your thoughts begin to dissolve into the stillness, a question stirs quiet as the hush before dawn. If your brain can reshape itself, what else might it be learning to feel? You lie back, eyes closed, and drift inward. Within the quiet folds of your skull, the universe hums to life. No stars, no planets, just soft pulses of light, dancing from cell to cell like lanterns passed hand to hand across a hidden valley. These are your neurons, 80 billion of them, nestled in a wrinkled landscape the color of dusk. They whisper in electricity, in language you do not hear, but live. Imagine a forest of glowing trees, every tree with roots of thought, branches of memory. Some lean toward the sun of a new idea, others wither in the dark of forgetting. And between them, paths form trails worn smooth by repetition, by habit, by learning. You walk these paths every day, often without knowing. This is your brain's quiet miracle. It changes, gently, constantly, not with violence, but with grace. Like rivers shifting course, a slow meander over time, a thought here, a movement there, a moment of wonder, a moment of pain, and slowly the terrain inside your head rearranges. This change has a name: neuroplasticity. Not long ago, scientists thought the brain was fixed, that after childhood its shape and strength were set, but they were wrong. Now we know better. We know your mind is not a stone, it is a garden, a living network of trails and bridges, growing in the directions you most often travel. When you learn something new, a name, a skill, a language, even a melody, a bridge forms, a synapse fires, a connection lights up like a star over calm water. And if you use it again, that path deepens, it becomes easier to cross. The trees around it lean inward, growing stronger, more sure. But if you stop, if a memory fades, or a skill lies untouched, the path begins to vanish. Like footprints washed from sand, the bridge doesn't burn, it simply weathers away. The forest of your mind is always pruning, always choosing which paths to keep and which to forget. And this forgetting too is beautiful. It makes room, it clears space for new thoughts to land, like seeds. It allows you to grow in new directions, even when you least expect it. Picture a dancer's body, how it learns to balance, to turn, to leap. That grace is not just in muscles, it's in the mind, in the mapping of motion. Each movement practiced rewires the brain, building new networks for rhythm, for precision, for flow. And the same is true for any learning, for a pianist's fingers, for a child learning to read, for an elder discovering a new language. The brain remains open, plastic, alive. Even in stillness, your neurons do not sleep. As you rest, they rearrange. They replay the day's thoughts like waves smoothing stones. They strengthen what matters. They release what does not. This too is neuroplasticity, memory being folded into your fabric. You are not who you were yesterday, or the day before that. Your mind is reshaped by every touch, every word, every passing feeling, not drastically, not all at once, but subtly, like water carving canyons, drop by drop, and though the changes may be invisible, they are real. A person recovering from a stroke may learn to speak again, not because the damage disappears, but because the brain finds new roads around it, new bridges where old ones broke. The map rewrites itself. In the same way, someone burdened by fear can, over time, train their mind toward calm, through meditation, through therapy, through choice and practice. The circuits of anxiety may be strong, worn deep by repetition, but they are not immovable. Even fear, even pain, can be softened by new roots of thought, and joy too can be grown. A person can build resilience, not by avoiding hardship, but by repeatedly choosing perspective, presence, gratitude. Each time you focus on what soothes you, the brain notices. It lays down threads of comfort, of safety. It remembers how to return. So much of who you are is practice, not destiny, not fate, but practice. A looping dance of neurons, lighting up in patterns learned over time. And because of that, change is possible, no matter how old, no matter how far. Even the quiet act of imagining begins to change the brain. When you picture yourself learning, healing, growing, your mind listens. It starts to lay the groundwork for what might be. Visualization becomes rehearsal. The rehearsal becomes reality. And slowly you walk the path you only once dreamed. You don't need to see it to believe it. Every time you choose kindness, even when it's hard, a path forms. Every time you try again, even when it's slow, a path strengthens. You are always sculpting yourself, thought by thought, choice by choice, neuron by neuron, and so your mind is never still. Even now, as you lie here, as your breath slows, as your muscles unwind, your brain is at work, rewiring, releasing, remembering, repairing. There is no final version of you, no finished map. The terrain shifts, the rivers bend. You are a living system shaped by love, by struggle, by learning, by time. You are fluid, you are soft, you are capable of beautiful change. Let that settle in your chest, like warm light. Let the idea move through you, like water through roots. You are not stuck, you never were, you are becoming. And just as the brain reshapes with thought, so too does the body respond, not only in reflexes and actions, but in ways deeper and quieter. Beneath the surface, your cells listen. They tune into your choices, your emotions, your rhythms. The body too is a listener, and it remembers. What might it mean to know that every part of you listens and learns? You lie back, body still, the world softening into silence. Above you, the stars hold their ancient conversation. Inside you, another kind of constellation begins to stir, and made not of light, but of thought, of memory, of change. This is the landscape of your mind, a place you've traveled every day, yet one that is never quite the same. Tonight you return to it, not as a wanderer, but as a quiet gardener. You've come to tend to something inside you, to understand how, every time you learn, something heals. In the brain, healing and learning are not strangers. They are companions on a shared road. The same way a forest recovers after fire, not by erasing what burned, but by growing around it. Your brain reshapes itself after pain, after confusion, after time. Neuroplasticity. It's a soft word for a powerful thing. The brain's ability to change, not just in childhood, but always, with every new piece of knowledge, every sensation, every experience. Your brain rewires. It doesn't simply store what you learn, it becomes what you learn. You once thought you were a fixed being, a self carved in stone, but the truth is, gentler. You are not stone, you are wet clay, shaped and reshaped by thought, by feeling, by the smallest moments. Picture your brain as a vast forest. Pathways twist and wind through trees thick with memory. Some trails are well worn. These are your habits, your reflexes, the patterns you walk without thinking. Others are overgrown, hidden beneath the underbrush. These are the forgotten ways, the ones you've not stepped on in years or ever. When you learn something new, your mind cuts a new path. It doesn't bulldoze, it tiptoes, a soft trail at first, delicate as a deer print in moss. But if you keep walking it, If you return again and again, that faint path becomes a road, then a highway. Neurons wrap their arms around one another, forming bonds that weren't there before. This is how healing begins, not by forgetting the old paths, but by lighting up new ones, by creating options, new ways to feel, to respond, to think, and eventually those new routes become the ones you take by instinct. It might feel small, learning to play a song on the piano, memorizing a phrase in a new language, practicing kindness in a moment when anger might have once lived. But each of these moments is a brushstroke in the brain's ongoing painting. The more you learn, the more you learn, the more your brain believes in possibility. There are places in your mind that once held sorrow, tight, cold hollows that felt like they could never bloom. But even here, even in the deepest caves, light can enter. It begins with curiosity, a spark, the willingness to wonder what else is possible, and then the forest stirs. A single shoot breaks through the soil. You feel it, not as a grand transformation, but as relief, as breath, as silence between thoughts. Science shows that learning releases dopamine, the brain's soft reward. This is not just pleasure, it's encouragement. A quiet pat on the back that says, yes, that was good, do it again, and so you do. With each repetition, the new connection strengthens, a little more light filters in. Even memories can change. When you revisit a memory, your brain does not play back a perfect recording. It paints over it slightly. It retouches, adds detail, softens the edge. That's how healing happens, not by erasing the past, but by re-editing how it lives in you. You are not stuck with the version of yourself you were in pain. The mind keeps growing, even in silence. Consider this: taxi drivers in London, who must memorize the endless tangle of city streets, grow a larger hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for spatial memory, not by magic, but by effort, attention, repetition. The brain rewards persistence with transformation. Your emotional maps change the same way. When you repeatedly choose presence over panic, reflection over reaction, you strengthen those neural trails. You are not pretending, you are practicing. And practice becomes real. Thoughts become traits. Wounds become windows. Learning does not demand perfection, only your presence. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, your brain is whispering, keep going, something is building. Even the smallest steps count. Reading one page, asking one new question, pausing for one breath. All of these are acts of inner repair. Every new idea you welcome is a stone laid on the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. There's beauty in knowing you are not static, you are in motion, even in stillness. The parts of you that once screamed in confusion, now listen with patience. The parts that once closed down now lean forward, curious, open, quietly brave. And when you feel yourself return to old patterns, that's not failure. That's the forest calling you back to a familiar trail. You can choose again, and each time you do, it becomes easier. You are healing in the most natural way possible, by becoming interested in life again, by learning, by noticing, by allowing. There are moments when it will feel slow, when you will doubt that anything is changing. But even then, especially then, the roots are growing deepest. You are allowed to learn new things, not just for productivity or progress, but for joy, for wonder, for the soft thrill of becoming. Let go of the idea that healing must be dramatic. Often it is quiet, gentle. It sounds like turning a page, or laughing unexpectedly, or dreaming about something you once feared, or understanding something that used to confuse you. That is the sound of your brain rewiring itself to hope. You are not broken, you are building. You are not stuck, you are shifting. And in this quiet moment of reflection you realize, every time you learn, something inside you softens, something wakes, something begins again. You lie back still and listening. The forest within you whispers in green. You breathe in, not to hold, but to prepare, because the next path is forming already, and it begins with one simple, powerful question: what happens when you rest? You lie still, eyes closed, breathing slow, and there it is again, that memory, that moment you wish had gone another way. Maybe it's small, a thing you said or didn't say. Maybe it's larger, a decision that branched into a different life. It comes quietly, like fog curling under a door, persistent, regret. You might try to shove it away, as if tucking it into the corner of a dark drawer, but the brain doesn't forget easily. Instead, it remembers and it learns. Inside your brain, nestled deep within the folds of the cortex, the orbitofrontal cortex begins to light up. This is the region that handles evaluation decisions, consequences, and emotional weighting. When you feel regret, this part of the brain reviews not just what happened, but what could have happened. The brain doesn't just store memories, it simulates alternate realities, like a painter laying ghostly sketches over the present. It draws what might have beens, so you can glimpse what might still be. This is the quiet miracle of regret. Though it stings, its purpose is not punishment. It is a signal, a neural compass, pointing toward the values you hold. Regret is most powerful when it means something mattered. You regret missing that call because love mattered. You regret a choice because the future mattered. And somewhere deep inside, you still believe in possibility. The anterior cingulate cortex, another ancient almond-shaped region, lights up too. It detects conflict, error, misalignment. You feel the mismatch between who you were and who you wish to be. This pain is not a dead end, it's a doorway. When we reflect on regret, the brain rewires. Neuroplasticity, the gentle shape-shifting of synapses, allows us to reshape response patterns. A missed opportunity becomes a lesson. A hard goodbye becomes a quiet promise. The first time you regret something, the signal is sharp. You wince. You wince. But if you return to it, thoughtfully, not to punish, but to understand, the brain begins to soften around it, like water wearing smooth the sharpness of a stone. In studies, those who engage with regret constructively show stronger activity in regions of self-regulation and planning. They don't spiral, they adjust, they don't forget, they learn. This process isn't about erasing the past, it's about reclaiming authorship. You become the editor of your own story, revising future chapters with care, with insight, with tenderness toward the self you once were. And how does this begin? By noticing, by allowing the feeling to rise, not to control you, but to speak. You listen. You ask, what does this regret tell me about who I want to become? There's no need to rush. Regret walks slowly. It does not shout. It hums. It doesn't demand change. It invites reflection. You might remember a moment when you stayed silent, when words trembled behind your teeth, but never left. That memory returns not to haunt you, but to suggest maybe next time you'll speak. Or perhaps you acted in anger. The regret isn't just about the damage done, it's about the person you saw in yourself, the one who acted without kindness. That image unsettles you, because it doesn't match the one you're trying to grow toward. Here, regret becomes a bridge between behavior and identity, between choice and character, between the past and the yet to come. In moments of deep regret, the brain often replays the scene again and again, as if trying to find the fork in the path where things diverged. This mental time travel isn't a glitch, it's an ancient learning loop. Animals, too, show signs of regret-like behavior. Rats in lab studies sometimes skip a food option, then hesitate, turning back, pausing longer at the missed opportunity, as if weighing loss. Even without words, there is awareness that something might have been better. That next time, it might still be. Humans, though, have language, and with it, the power to narrate. To name what hurt, to name what was learned, and to shape it into something useful. Writing about regret, even for a few minutes, has been shown to reduce emotional distress and increase insight, as if the brain, through storytelling, releases something clenched, like steam rising from a cooling teacup. And in time, the memory that once seared begins to glow less fiercely. It becomes textured, not just painful, but instructive. Not just a wound, but a scar that points the way. Regret, when metabolized with gentleness, becomes wisdom, a subtle internal guide. Not an alarm bell, but a tuning fork resonating when you drift from your deeper values. It doesn't mean you failed, it means you noticed, and noticing is the first spark of growth. Tonight you may lie still again, and the memory may return, but perhaps now it will feel different, less like punishment, more like a quiet teacher, waiting with patient eyes. You may not change the past, but you are always shaping the future. Neural pathways are not set in stone, they are trails in sand, redrawn with each step of awareness. So when regret visits, offer it a seat, let it speak, and when it finishes, thank it for the map it leaves behind. The journey continues, the path shifts beneath your feet, and in the distance, a new question rises, not about what you could have done, but about what you might now become. You lie back, eyes closed, and let the gentle tide of thought carry you. Somewhere inside your mind, a door creaks open, and through it, a memory tiptoes in. At first it seems solid, crisp edges, familiar colors, a face, a voice, a moment. But as you look closer, it shifts. That face softens, the voice changes pitch. The scene gently rearranges itself like sand under shallow water. This is not error. This is not failure. This is the quiet art of remembering. Each time you recall a memory, you are not retrieving it as a photograph, tucked neatly into a drawer. Instead, you are sculpting it anew, reshaping it with your hands, your feelings, your present self. The act of remembering is the act of remaking. Your brain, that soft cathedral of thought, is built not of marble but of clay. Its walls breathe. Its architecture bends to light and mood. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change itself, to rewrite its own script, to soften and reform even what seemed etched forever. You picture a potter at their wheel, steady hands, fingers stained with wet earth. The clay spins, each touch leaves a mark, slight but lasting. That's your memory, and that's you, the potter. When you revisit the past, you don't merely observe, you press your hands into it, each time a little more, a little differently. Science once believed that memory was a kind of library, precise, sorted, permanent. But the truth is more human, more poetic. Memory is not a library, it is a garden, and every visit is a chance to plant something new or gently prune what no longer belongs. You remember an old argument, sharp words exchanged long ago, but now, from this distance, the tone has softened, the heat has cooled. You recall not the sting but the lesson. Neuroplasticity has been at work quietly, like moss growing over stone. The pain no longer pulses. The memory has become a teacher instead of a wound. How does this happen? Deep within your brain, clusters of neurons communicate through fragile branches, dendrites reaching, synapses pulsing. When you recall an event, those neurons light up, recreating the pattern of that experience. But in the act of lighting up, they also rewire, connections strengthen, others fade. The pattern shifts slightly, like a constellation changing shape as stars flicker in and out of view. This is not chaos. This is adaptation. Your memories evolve because you evolve. The person remembering is not the person who lived it, and so your brain, wisely, allows your past to keep pace with your present. Each recollection is a reunion, and also a rewrite. It's why stories grow warmer over time. It's why traumas lose their edge, or transform into wisdom. It's why nostalgia wraps old moments in softer light. You are not deceiving yourself. You are healing. Picture your brain as a vast coastline. Every wave of thought that washes over it leaves a trace, recarving the sand, smoothing sharp shells. Memory then is like walking those sands barefoot. Sometimes you find old footprints, sometimes they are faded or filled with new tides. But always they shift. The shore is never the same twice. This is not something to fear. In fact, it is a gift. For just as painful memories can grow gentler, joyful ones can grow brighter. When you recall a laugh shared, a hand held, a word spoken in kindness, you reinforce it. You braid it tighter into the fabric of your mind. You make it easier to find again next time. This too is neuroplasticity. Your brain listens to what you return to, and in doing so it decides what matters. Each act of remembering is a vote cast for what you value, for what you wish to carry forward. The brain adapts to support your priorities, your patterns, your path, and so it grows, like a tree leaning toward sunlight. Your neural circuits lean toward where your attention flows. If you feed your memories with patience and compassion, the brain quietly nourishes those roots. Over time, the past becomes less a prison and more a garden gate, something you can walk through, explore, learn from, and gently close behind you. Even trauma, when revisited in safe spaces, can begin to soften. Therapy, reflection, even dreams, these are tools we use to reshape what once felt fixed. Plasticity is not erasure, it is transformation. The scar remains, but it does not have to ache forever. There is beauty in this imperfection. You are not a static being, you are process, you are movement, and your memories are rivers winding, merging, changing course. What matters most is not the exact image, but the meaning you carry from it, the story you tell yourself, and the grace you allow it to hold. You may wonder then what is true. If each memory reshapes itself, how can you trust what you recall? But truth in this quiet world of mind and memory is not a single sharp point. It is a constellation, many lights, many shapes, changing as you move. The core remains, your values, your feelings, the lessons you drew. Even if the details shift, the essence holds, and perhaps that's enough. You think back to your earliest memory, maybe the sound of rain on a tin roof, or your mother's voice humming a lullaby. You cannot be sure of the color of the sky that day, or the clothes you wore, but you remember how it felt, safe, gentle, held. That feeling, that stays. The feeling is the truth, the rest is the clay. You open your eyes, or perhaps you keep them closed. It doesn't matter. What matters is this: your memories live not as fossils but as seeds, and every time you touch them, they grow a little differently, a little more in tune with who you are now. You are the gardener, you are the sculptor, you are the storyteller of your own past, and with every gentle, mindful recall, you become more yourself. You wonder then, if your memories can change so softly over time, what else in you might change too? What habits? What patterns? What beliefs? Could you reshape more than the past? Could the present soften too? You lie still beneath the quiet hush of night, yet deep within you something stirs, beneath your skin, beyond your bones, past the hush of your heartbeat. Your mind is not at rest. Even in stillness, it dances. This movement isn't chaotic. It's purposeful, like a stream that finds its own way through a valley. Neurons whisper softly to one another, like fireflies exchanging glances in the dark. They build patterns, pathways that deepen with each gentle step you take again and again, a thought repeated, a gesture rehearsed, a breath noticed. These small acts ripple through your brain like pebbles dropped into water, soft but significant. The brain is not a fixed thing. It is not a stone or a statue. It is a living, changing forest. Imagine walking through it. Trees arching above, moss underfoot, trails winding through the thicket. Each time you think a thought, your footsteps press into the forest floor. At first they vanish in the undergrowth, but repeat them often and a trail begins to form, worn smooth by repetition. Familiar, effortless. This is how habits take shape. This is how learning feels so natural. Even when you don't notice it, while brushing your teeth, tying your shoes, greeting a loved one, you are deepening paths in the forest of your mind. It's called neuroplasticity, the brain's quiet gift to itself, the ability to change, to adapt, to become, not overnight, but over time with gentle nudges and kind repetition. Imagine now a child learning to walk, wobbly steps, falling often. But the brain doesn't scold, it adjusts. Tiny nerves reroute, like streams finding new banks. Muscles learn, balance blooms, the child walks. This same principle applies even now. Even as you lie still and listen, your brain remains teachable, moldable, willing. Each thought is a chance to redirect the current. Each breath a vote for presence, each pause a window to growth. But here's the secret: the brain listens best when kindness is present. Like a flower turning toward the sun, it leans into repetition that feels safe. It doesn't bloom from scolding, but from soft encouragement. You might think of old habits that feel like traps, patterns of thought or behavior so deeply worn, they feel like stone. But even stone erodes with time and water. Even the deepest paths in your mind can be softened. Picture a new path forming in that forest. At first it's barely there, just a brush of grass, but step on it once, then again, and the old overgrowth yields. The way becomes clearer, more light filters through. This is how new habits form, not by force but by returning, gently. The more you return, the easier it becomes, and over time, the old paths fade, not erased but unused, overgrown until they too soften into memory. So tonight you may lie still, but your mind, it continues its work, quietly reweaving the fabric of its own forest. Each thought of peace, a new path. Each act of patience, a clearing. Each moment of self-kindness, a light in the trees. You do not need to force change. You do not need to conquer your brain. You only need to return. Again and again, with kindness. And your mind, ever listening, will respond. Even now it's listening. Even now it's shifting like the forest after rain. Roots stretching, leaves uncurling, paths forming beneath the mist. There is no final shape for the mind. No finished form. Only movement, direction, possibility. Even in rest, even in stillness, you are still becoming. Let this be your rhythm. Breathe, return, repeat. And let each return be gentle. You are not fixed in place. You are fluid, like wind carving sand, like rivers shaping rock. Every kind repetition leaves a trace. So tonight you may think of a habit you wish to soften. A thought that repeats too sharply, a pattern that no longer fits, and instead of fighting it, you offer it space. You walk a little differently, you take one gentle step elsewhere, and then another, and the brain, curious and hopeful, follows. And so, the old fades, and the new begins, one soft breath at a time, one night at a time, one thought at a time. And beneath it all, your mind, your beautiful, moving, living mind, welcomes the change, like spring rain. The patterns deepen, the forest listens, and the next question rises gently in your mind, like dawn mist through the trees. Close your eyes, feel the hush of the moment settle in like soft dust falling in a silent room. There is no rush here, only the breath. Only now. You might think that stillness means stasis, that sitting quietly, eyes closed, doing nothing is exactly that. Nothing, but that is not true. Within this stillness, there is movement. Beneath the quiet, a slow transformation begins. You are not idling, you are sculpting. The mind is not a stone, it is clay, malleable, responsive, always changing. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to rewire itself in response to experience and meditation. Gentle as it seems, is one of the most powerful tools in shaping that change. Picture your attention as a chisel. Every time you bring your focus back from thought to breath, from distraction to presence, you're carving new grooves, refining old patterns, smoothing jagged edges of reactivity. It may not feel dramatic, but like waves sculpting the shore, the changes are real. Let's step inside your brain for a moment. Imagine wandering through a vast forest of neurons, each one a tree, each connection a root or a branch reaching out. With each breath, with each moment of mindful awareness, you're encouraging growth in certain paths while letting others grow quiet with disuse. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of attention and decision-making, begins to flourish. Its branches thicken, its roots deepen. The amygdala, the center of fear and emotional reactivity, starts to quiet. shrinking gently like a storm cloud drifting apart. You're not forcing anything, just being, just being. And yet, this gentle act is rearranging your neural architecture softly, patiently, persistently. You may not notice it at first, but with time, you respond more calmly to frustration. You pause before reacting. You sense the swell of emotion without being swept away by it. This is the sculpture taking shape not through force, but through focus. Attention, after all, is energy. Where you direct it, things grow. When you hold your breath in mindful awareness, you are watering the soil of clarity. When you sit in stillness, you are not escaping life, you are meeting it more deeply. There is science beneath this stillness. MRI scans reveal the shifts, thicker gray matter in regions tied to learning, memory, emotion regulation, decreased density in the stress centers of the brain. It's as if the practice is reshaping your inner landscape, a garden being tended by your quiet presence. And yet, this is not about perfection. The mind will wander. It always does. But every gentle return, every moment of here I am again, is a stroke of the sculptor's hand. You are not failing. You are forming. Imagine now the rhythm of your breath, the rise and fall like ocean tides, soft and timeless, inhaling presence, exhaling release. With each cycle, you brush the surface of your awareness clean, making room for clarity to emerge. Your awareness deepens, not into thought, but into being, not into control, but into trust. And from this quiet, the brain responds. It learns that calm is safe, that stillness is strength. Even 5 minutes a day begins the shift, like sunlight warming a seed buried deep. The effects are slow, steady, and real. Patterns of anxiety begin to dissolve. Wounds held in tension begin to loosen. You begin to sense deep down that peace is not something to chase. It's something you practice, and practice, like breath, like change, is always available. The next time you sit and breathe, remember this: you are not doing nothing. You are sculpting. You are shaping a quieter mind, a steadier self, an inner sanctuary, resilient to storm. Not all growth is loud. Not all change is visible. Some of the most powerful transformations happen in silence, like mountains forming beneath the sea. And so you return, not because the mind is already calm, but because you are teaching it to be. You sit, you breathe, you chisel with attention, you brush with breath, and the sculpture unfolds not in marble or clay, but in thought, in feeling, in the very way you exist in the world. Stillness, you realize, is not the opposite of action. It is a kind of action, a quiet one, but one with depth. And from that depth comes change, not imposed but invited, not hurried but steady. The same way a tree does not rush its growth, the same way the moon does not race the sky. You are learning to trust the pace of transformation. You are sculpting your mind, with patience, with presence, with breath. And as this inner work unfolds, you begin to wonder about something deeper still, not just how you shape your thoughts, but how thoughts themselves emerge. Where do they arise from? How does a single moment of silence ripple into insight? That's a question for the next chapter. You lie back, eyes soft, breath shallow. The day dissolves behind you like chalk in rain. And now, you turn inward. Inside you is a landscape vast and varied. It isn't built of bones or stone, but of sensations and memories, of moods that swell and settle like tides. This is your emotional terrain. Some parts feel familiar, a well-worn path of sadness you know by heart, a patch of joy, sunlit and scattered, where laughter once bloomed. Other parts are shadowed places you don't visit often, not out of fear perhaps, but out of habit. You might think this terrain is permanent, its hills and hollows etched into you like ancient rock. But the science of emotion says otherwise. Your inner world is not fossilized. It is wet clay. It bends to experience, reshaped each time you reflect, each time you name a feeling or give it breath. Inside your brain, emotions are not stored in jars labeled anger, joy, grief. They are networks, electric, fluid, active, a dance of neurons, hormones, interwoven memory and body. Lisa Feldman Barrett, a leading researcher in affective neuroscience, calls emotion a kind of prediction, your brain anticipating what a sensation means, based on your past, your body, your environment. In this view, feelings are not hardwired reactions, they are constructed, so even if sadness comes easily to you, like rain returning to a riverbed, that path is not inevitable, it is just familiar, and familiarity can be changed. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's astonishing ability to reshape itself. Neurons that fire together, wire together, and those that don't begin to fade like trails untrodden, which means your emotional terrain, this aching valley of regret, this sharp ridge of anxiety, this meadow of fleeting peace is not the final map. It's just this season's weather. It can shift. And how does it shift? Not with force, not with denial, but with noticing, with care. Like tending a garden, you observe what grows, what wilts, and you choose gently what to nurture next. When you name an emotion, I feel tight in my chest. It might be worry, I feel distant. Maybe that's grief visiting again. You begin to loosen its hold. Labeling an emotion lights up the prefrontal cortex, quieting the amygdala's alarm. This is called affect labeling, and it is one of the brain's quietest tools for healing. Imagine your feelings not as enemies or puzzles but as guests, arriving to be acknowledged. Anger knocks, and behind it, you find unmet needs. Loneliness sits quietly, and beneath it, the shape of old connection lost. Even joy can surprise you, tender as a forgotten song. Each time you pause to meet a feeling, not push it away, not cling to it, you're rewiring. You're sending roots into new soil. Of course, the old paths don't vanish. You may still find your way back to the dark forest of self-doubt, the cliffs of frustration, but now you have new trails, lit with the memory of kindness, lit with the possibility of change, and there are tools for trail making. Breath is one. Slow, steady breath signals safety to the nervous system, inviting the parasympathetic branch, the rest and digest mode, to take the wheel. Touch is another, a hand to your heart, a warm shower, even imagining a soothing gesture can calm the insula, where pain and emotion converge. And then there's imagery like this one. You are standing in soft earth, barefoot. You can feel the mud between your toes. It's yielding, responsive. You step, and it reshapes to support you. This is your inner world, not rigid stone, but responsive ground. Yes, sometimes it floods, sometimes it cracks, but it remembers rain. It remembers roots. And beneath it all, a deeper intelligence pulses your body's quiet knowing. Science tells us emotions don't live only in the brain, they ripple through the body. Cortisol in the bloodstream, tightness in the gut, heat in the face. The body speaks its truths, long before the mind makes meaning. So to shift your emotional terrain is not just to change thoughts, it's to attend to sensation, to learn the language of heartbeat and breath, of stillness and tremble. Over time, with softness, your landscape begins to change. Where once was bramble, now soft moss grows. Where once you flinched, now you pause. Curious, this doesn't mean you never feel sorrow. It means you no longer fear it. You meet it like an old teacher, firm, but not cruel. You listen, and then joy finds you again, unexpected, like wildflowers after frost. You begin to recognize joy not as loud laughter, but as quiet ease, the space between thoughts, the warmth of a breath that doesn't rush. You begin to trust that calm is not foreign, just forgotten, and it can be remembered. In this remembering, you lay new tracks. You become a mapmaker of your own emotional earth, and slowly you realize something gentle and profound. You are not at the mercy of your feelings. You are in relationship with them, and relationships can be tended. So tonight, as your breath deepens, as the tide of the day pulls back, imagine your inner world once more, not as a battlefield, not as a prison, but as land you are learning to walk, soft living ground, not stone. And just beyond the horizon of this moment, a quiet question begins to stir. What happens to memory in a brain that's always changing? Forgiveness is not a deletion of memory, it's a redirection of meaning. It is your brain learning a different response to pain. You train your neurons to let go, not by force, but by gentle repetition. You create peace, not by erasing the wound, but by softening its hold. You lie still, and in the quiet space between thoughts, A memory returns slow, uninvited, sharp around the edges. It has traveled a long path through your neural maze, stitched into the folds of your brain like a scar pressed into soft clay. The person, the moment, the wound, they are all there, just beneath the surface. And yet, something feels different tonight. Not erased, not gone, but quieter. Forgiveness, you realize, is not a command, not an act of forgetting, not the flipping of a switch. It is the slow unwinding of a taut string, a gradual loosening of a neural knot, a rewiring. Your brain is a sculptor, always refining its circuits, pruning old responses, growing new ones. What was once a path of pain becomes, over time, a path of understanding. It begins in the amygdala, the emotional sentinel of your mind. When hurt arrives, it is the first to sound the alarm. Muscles tense. Breath shortens. A memory stamps itself into your body, but your prefrontal cortex, the wise observer, watches. It learns. And when given time and intention, it can begin to reshape that imprint. You do not forget what happened. The brain is not built to delete pain. Instead, it learns to respond with less fear, less anger. It learns that the wound does not need to stay open to be acknowledged, that healing is not the same as pretending, and that safety can exist even in the shadow of past harm. Neurons that once fired in panic begin to rest. Dendrites that reached out in defense begin to retract, and new branches, tender, uncertain, begin to grow. This is neuroplasticity in its most compassionate form. Forgiveness is a rehearsal, a daily practice of sending different signals down old wires. It is the way you look at the same memory from a new angle, the way you exhale when the bitterness tries to rise, the way you pause before reacting. These small shifts, practiced, repeated, softened, become the new shape of your mind. And this reshaping is not weakness. It is effort. It is courage. It is the quiet labor of your inner world, choosing peace over protection. Because protection builds walls. It is Nero Betrienisis Duri in Eschem. But peace builds bridges, even if they stretch only toward yourself. Imagine standing at the edge of a familiar cliff. Below is the memory, sharp as stone. But this time, you don't jump. You don't replay the fall. You sit instead, you breathe. And in that moment, your brain notes the difference. It whispers this response is new. With each of these gentle moments, your hippocampus, the keeper of narrative, begins to update the story. Not erase it, but reframe it. It allows the memory to soften at the edges. It stops highlighting the pain in red. It draws in more color, the full landscape of the moment, including the strength it took to survive it. This process does not happen all at once. Forgiveness is not a flash of light. It is the slow melting of ice. One drop, then another. The freeze begins to thaw as new signals reroute your perception. You are not denying what hurt you. You are deciding how much of your present you wish to give to it. Your vagus nerve, the long winding thread connecting brain to body, carries this message. When forgiveness begins, your heart rate steadies. Your breath deepens. Your stomach relaxes. The body responds to the absence of threat. And this physiological calm tells the brain, it's okay, you're safe now. You may still feel the echoes, the sudden pang, the unexpected memory. But over time, those echoes quiet. Not because the event was insignificant, but because your brain no longer needs to prepare for danger. The circuits learn new routes. The emotion detaches from the reaction. You begin to reclaim the energy that pain once consumed. That energy becomes presence. It becomes curiosity. It becomes softness toward yourself. Because true forgiveness, in the end, is not a gift to the other. It is a reclamation of your own mental terrain. It is the turning of a battlefield into a garden. And like all gardens, it requires tending. You will have to pull out weeds, not once, but many times. You will have to sit with the soil of your past and choose what you plant next. That is forgiveness. Not a clean slate, but a cultivated one. Sometimes the brain resists. It tells you holding on keeps you strong. But strength is not in the grip, it is in the release. It is in allowing yourself to stop rehearsing the pain, to no longer relive the betrayal. The nervous system, with practice, learns to unclench. As you lay here tonight, the work continues, subtle and silent. Your neurons are listening, watching, waiting for your cue. And when you choose again and again to lean toward peace, you are teaching your brain to do the same. Every act of letting go becomes a vote for your future safety. You don't have to forget. The brain will remember what it must. But you can teach it to tell a kinder version. One that includes pain but doesn't orbit around it. One that offers space for growth. One that sees the hurt but no longer bows to it. Forgiveness, then, is not forgetting. It is choosing how you remember. It is training your brain to step forward, even with the weight of the past gently slung across your shoulders. Not erased, but carried differently. Some days it will be harder than others. The wound may feel fresh again. That's okay. Rewiring is not linear. It spirals, loops, returns. But each time you meet the pain with presence, not resistance, your brain rewires a little more. The scar becomes a symbol, not a trap. And in time, even the hardest memories lose their sharpness. They become quieter companions, not captors. You can sit beside them without flinching. You can hear their stories without collapsing. That is forgiveness. That is healing. That is neural grace. So tonight, as your thoughts drift and scatter, let them pass like leaves on a river. You do not need to hold them all. Some can float away, others may return. But your hands can remain open. In this quiet, you are not empty. You are being rewired, you are being rewritten. And though the wound once screamed, now it hums soft and low as your mind prepares to dream. You lie back, and the day begins to dissolve, its sharp edges softening, its loudness folding into quiet. There's nothing you need to fix right now. No race to catch up with. No missing pieces that make you less than whole. Feel your breath. It moves gently in and out, like the tide, like a whisper from the ocean of your life. And beneath that breath, unseen but always listening, your brain, your quiet gardener, tends to the soil of who you are becoming. This is not the story of a finished sculpture, carved and done. This is the story of clay that warms in your hands. You are still soft, still shaping, still forming. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are changing, and the change is not chaos, it's choreography. Inside your brain, a quiet miracle is always unfolding. Even as you rest, billions of neurons light and dim, their signals dancing across networks that shift with your every experience. Science calls it neuroplasticity, a big word for a beautiful truth. Your brain rewires itself over and over as you live. That kindness you offered today, it wasn't just an act, it was an instruction that regret you carried. It wasn't wasted weight, it was a message. Your brain listens to what you feel, what you repeat, what you pay attention to, and then it learns. It adjusts, it builds new bridges. Imagine walking through a forest of your own thoughts. Each time you walk a path, the grass bends, the soil remembers. The more often you pass that way with a thought, with a feeling, with a behavior, the more the path becomes a trail, and the trail becomes a road. This is how habits form, how memories stay, how healing begins. But here's the magic. Even old roads can be overgrown. Even well-worn pain can be rewrote. Even the patterns that feel like fate, they're just trails, and trails can change. You've believed things about yourself, some of them gently true, some of them shaped by hurt. I'm not enough. I always mess things up. These were never laws of nature. They were only paths. And you, the walker, can turn. This chapter of your life, this moment, even now, is not a page torn from a script. It's clay again, soft again. The story is editable. Every breath rewrites the next line. Sometimes you'll hear an old voice in your mind, the one that doubts, the one that fears. Don't silence it. Listen. It's not your enemy. It's a record of old weather. But the forecast isn't fixed. With compassion, not force, you can choose again. A new thought, softly repeated. A new action, tried again and again. And slowly, patiently, your brain begins to notice, begins to rewire, begins to believe you. You are not locked in. You are not lost. You are learning, always. Even rest is learning. Even silence has shape. The very act of imagining a better self is already a form of instruction to the brain. Neurons form alliances. New dendrites sprout. Chemicals shift their patterns. The brain doesn't ask for permission, it responds to attention. So tonight, offer yourself this attention, this breath, this pause. Not because you're behind, but because you are becoming. There are no final drafts in the book of you, only evolving chapters. And this one, this chapter here, is tender, but deeply alive. Let yourself feel how change doesn't require war. It doesn't demand perfection. Change arrives like spring, not all at once, but with tiny green signals, breaking through cold soil. When you made that decision last week, the one you're still unsure about, that moment mattered. Not because it was right or wrong, but because it added to your map. You now know more, you now see differently. Regret, too, is learning. It's not punishment, it's perspective. And with perspective, new connections form. Your brain, like a field, grows with everything you plant, even the seeds you didn't mean to sow. You are not the person you were last year, not even the person you were this morning, and you will not be the same tomorrow. This is not failure. This is the design. When babies learn to walk, they fall hundreds of times. Not once do we call them failures. Their brains are sculpting the idea of balance, and the only way to carve that shape is to fall forward, again and again. So too with you, you are falling forward into your future. Not broken, not wrong, just learning. The brain that once flinched in fear can, in time, learn safety. The brain that once fixated on blame can, with practice, learn compassion. The circuits that felt stuck can spark with new possibility. You are becoming, always. There's nothing missing in you. There is only unfolding. As you lie still, your brain does not. It replays, it repairs, it releases, it listens to your breath and calibrates to calm. It prepares new paths for tomorrow's thoughts. You don't need to try harder to earn this change. You only need to notice, to choose, to return. And when you forget, as you will, you can return again and again and again. This is the rhythm of becoming. This is the heartbeat of transformation. You are not a project, you are a garden. You are not a puzzle, you are a pattern in motion. And the future version of you, they are not waiting in judgment. They are waiting with open arms. They already know what you are learning now. That your pain was not pointless, that your doubt was part of the design, that your slow bloom is still a bloom. Let that truth settle in your chest. Let it become a warmth you carry, not a fire to burn you, but a glow to light your path. The self you long to be is not a stranger. It's a seed already inside you, fed by every small kindness you offer even now. So rest, gentle traveler. The journey continues. And just ahead, like a question asked softly in the dark, waits a deeper truth. What if your regret was trying to guide you?